Well, there we go, Caleb. Week 11 was a wild, wild, wild week with which we saw a lot of division rivalries face off against each other. Let's jump right in. Started with a Thursday night matchup. New England Patriots were 12.5-point favorites, 27-14 over the New York Jets. Last week, I don't know what was wrong with me. I was saying Giants, Jets, Giants. I don't know. Maybe I don't know,
Hey,
freaking out a little bit. It's an abbreviated night. Some of our guys are missing, as you know, but we're going to get through our regular rhythm. What do you think, New England? They're starting to roll.
yeah, Rabel looks great. That's what we thought he would do when he got there. We didn't think it'd be this fast. No one did. Like I said last week, it wasn't on anyone's bingo card that they'd be leading the league
Yeah.
in everything apparently.
Yeah.
But Drake May actually leads the league in the NFL in passing without having a 300-yard game. So he's not having massive games. He's just been consistently hitting the high 200s.
Have they hit their bye yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, it's coming. I'm sure it's coming. All right. Well, 27-14, New England starting to roll. Not much to see in Spain. Watching Miami beat up on Washington Commanders 16-13. I'll never get used to that. I don't want to get used to it.
Yeah, 9:30 games are always weird, but the Commanders kind of had the bad side of this because they are older.
The bad leg.
Probably a jet lag or something, yeah. But the
Yeah.
real thing is the Dolphins, their GM, their new GM, is using the good players that they actually have on their team, unlike the other guy. Juju Brents, like Josh talked about last week, the corners playing up, and then Jack Jones sealed the game with the interception that he had and did the Cristiano Ronaldo celebration. So they're using the players that they're supposed to use that they haven't been using, so it's good to see.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. It's it's what we thought it is. Miami somehow gets rid of a GM and they start winning football games. Go figure. Carolina Panthers, Atlanta Falcons, another rivalry, another divisional matchup. It looks like in this one, Caleb, Carolina is able to pull ahead 30-27 and beat Atlanta. Penix looks like he's out, at least on IR for the rest of the year.
Yeah, he has ACL damage. They didn't say how bad it was, and it's in his knee that was not torn in college. So he had multiple surgeries in college on one knee. This is the other knee. Drake London also has a PCL sprain, so he's going to be out for this week. They said he's week to week, so we'll see how long he's out. But the good thing in this game was Bryce Young. He looked really good.
Very
448 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He actually set the passing record for the Panthers franchise record for passing this game. So it looked great. Had a little injury scare at the end of the game, but was able to finish through. So it looked really good.
Yeah, their backup situation is not looking promising when he goes down. A little, maybe not a surprise. It looks like Tampa Bay was going to be playing toe-to-toe with the Buffalo Bills for the longest time. Buffalo at home started to, at the end, kind of pour it on 44-32. The Bills don't look good, but they were able to, what is it we say around here? Every time they're inside the red zone, 10 yards or less, we know who's going to get the ball. It's going to be their quarterback. Is he still their leading rusher?
Yeah.
Or?
I don't think he's the leading rusher. I think it's close, but Josh Allen, I think he had 6 touchdowns this game, 3 on the ground, 3 in the air, which is absurd. A highlight for the Bucks, I know they're banged up, and it was close at the beginning, is Sean Tucker. Their technically third string running back had 3 touchdowns and high 100, almost 200 scrimmage yards, played out of his mind. So that's good to see with Bucky Irving still not touching the practice fields in September, which is a little alarming because they said after the bye he would be back, and he's still not back. So we'll see how that shakes out there. But Bills look good, which is weird to say because some games they look terrible, like the Falcons game a few weeks ago in prime time. They just didn't look good at all. So it seems like they're figuring it out. They brought back Jordan Poyer, their safety. He's been playing good for them this game. So we'll see.
Their star receiver was a healthy scratch, but didn't see a lot of playing time. A little weird.
Yeah, a little weird. They brought Gabe Davis up from the practice squad. So if you watch the Bills the past few years, he used to be their number 2, 1B behind Stephon Diggs, and he played this game at 40 yards right off the bench. So he's looking to be their guy going forward, I think. If I had to guess, I think he'd be someone to pick up in fantasy if he's still there for you.
Looking at the NFC South, because the Saints were off this week, the Saints at 2-8, Falcons at 3-7, Panthers at 6-5 because of the loss. They're in second place behind the 6-4 Buccaneers. So this division is starting to heat up just a little bit. Let's keep moving down the pipe. A tough game in Tennessee. They lose 16-13 to Houston, who has some late-minute heroics to win. On their backup quarterback, Davis Mills, one of our favorite backups, is playing relatively well considering what they're dealing with here. Chicago, Minnesota, this is rivalry week, definitely divisional matchup. Again, J.J. McCarthy looks terrible. I hate to say it. I know people hate on me. But Chicago comes back 19-13 on a late field goal. We're very critical of J.J. McCarthy here, but truth is, They have to be at some point, Caleb, Minnesota, starting to get tired of watching this guy throw long balls on third down every time they get a long third down. I don't. Frustrating.
I'll clarify for Josh, who is, and he's the most vocal off camera about quarterbacks, just because we don't like seeing quarterbacks get crowned too early that they're the guy, and we don't like them giving up on too early. But when your quarterback hasn't progressed, he's been on the team for this is the second year. I know he was hurt last year. But he had all the time to be with the team, to practice, to be in the film room, to learn the game, be coached up last year, and then this is technically his rookie year. Game to game, looks like he's getting worse, which is very alarming. This game, he was 16 to 32, 150 passing yards, 4.7 average per reception. Not good. One touchdown, 2 picks, and he had a 47.7 quarterback rating, which is, a 22 quarterback rating, 47.7 rating overall. So not good football at all. Justin Jefferson, I don't know how he held it together. He looked like he was going to slam his helmet down and start cussing out somebody, but he laid it down a little bit gently and then sat down and was mumbling to himself. So I think the glue's going to come out there a little bit more now that their offense is struggling. Yeah. It's just not good.
Yeah, it's a shame because your defense is playing pretty good ball, and then defenses tend to get pretty frustrated when they see their offense struggle. All right, not a divisional game, but still in the conference. Green Bay is able to beat the Giants 27-20. Nice effort from our guy, Jameis Winston. He came out there, but his true colors at the end, started throwing picks. And as
I'll
we
say
know,
something about that.
Yeah.
If you rewatch it, it looks like Hyatt's supposed to run, like it sticks out, supposed to go out. He just runs straight and stops in the end zone. The ball is out before he's done running the route anyway. So Jameis is throwing to a spot. It's not. I don't think it's on Jameis. Jalen Hyatt, if you follow Tennessee football, which I'm sure some of you do, or the Giants in general, he's not a route runner. He's a go ball guy. He doesn't know routes. There's that tape that people know about a Dallas coach asking him during the combine, like, hey, what kind of routes can you run? He's like, you'll see. But he never answered the question. He can't run routes. So I don't blame Winston for that. Right. The Packers, I know Tim's probably tired of hearing it.
Yeah.
Tucker Kraft is the reason why this team's struggling. He's not in the game. He's their best blocker. He's their best receiver. He's leading the league in yak as a tight end. Then tears his ACL 2 weeks ago. So their team's feeling it. Luke Musgrave had a terrible fumble that didn't go the other way, fortunately, for the Packers. And they benched him immediately, and Josh Wiley scored a touchdown, their fourth string tight end. So it looks like they're going to have John Fitzpatrick and Josh Wiley running in tight ends. 2 guys where they used to just be Tucker Kraft. So that is the main thing for the Packers. Some good news for the Packers. Jaden Reed might be practicing this week. They might open up his practice window this week. So that's much needed help in their offense.
Yeah, they need some help for sure. They're very inconsistent. They get the win 27-20 over the Giants. Cincinnati-Pittsburgh, divisional game. Pittsburgh's able to pull it off 34-12. Again, I think the Steeler offense is looking a little stale, predictable. They're cashing on their 300-pound tight ends, which, hey, I got to give it to him.
Yeah.
He's a baller, but oh my gosh. What did you call it? Ugly run of the week?
It's the angry run of the week. The NFL Network does it. But he had, I think, 2 broken tackles, 3 stiff arms, and 1 run for first down.
Unbelievable.
Crazy.
Unbelievable. And I guess we should closely look at their quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, who went down. Is it a non-throwing hand injury?
Yeah, it's his left hand. It's fractured. I believe that's what they said. And he's going to try and play through it, but he has to go through the doctors still to get cleared, which, I mean, they could just clear him as the team doctors, I think. So he could play.
Yeah, it's always tricky.
We've seen him play through knee sprains on the Packers. He's a tough dude, broken ribs, collarbone issues. We've seen him play through some things. So I don't think it's going to have him sit. But if it affects his play, I think they'll switch him out for Mason, because Mason's one of the best backups in the league. So I don't think they'll have a problem with that.
Yeah, I agree. But no surprise, when you got division games like this, I hate to say it, but year after year when it comes to games like Cincinnati-Pittsburgh, you almost have to think if Cincinnati walked away with the first one, Pittsburgh might do the second one. It's kind of a safe way to bet sometimes. But, all right, this was one I don't think anyone predicted because the Chargers were...
I think I did.
Did you? Did you call it?
I think so, yeah.
35.
I picked the map, so I think I did.
Yeah, 35-6. Jacksonville rolls. What's wrong? Let's not talk about Jacksonville because they are what they are. Let's talk about the Chargers. This is a team that is supposed to be maybe winning their division or at least top in their division right now. Let's look at that division. 7-4. They're behind the Broncos that are soaring at 9-2. Chiefs are 5-5. 500 Chiefs. Of course, the Raiders
are
out of
the playoffs if it ended right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is wrong with the Chargers?
So we talked about it last week a little bit. They're on their third string left tackle now, with Joe Alt being out. Their O-line overall is all shifted around, but their starters aren't playing where they're supposed to. And then I think I called it last week with the edge rushers that they have with Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker. I think he left this game, though. The pressure that they would give, because if you look at the offense for the Jaguars, they aren't really healthy either. Jacoby Myers in his second game there. Their starting tight ends out. Brian Thomas was out. And they ran their backup running back more than they in the first half. Sorry, they switched up at the end and gave each team a lot of carries. But Facial Tootin was running great. I don't know. I think it's just injuries stacking up for the Chargers finally, and they just ran the ball when they were supposed to. The Jaguars did. So I think it was perfect storm. The punter and the long snapper took a picture with Trevor Lawrence after the game to thank him, because it was the first game that they never punted. First game Jaguars never punted. So it was good to come off the worst loss in their history last week. Tim talked about it a lot last week.
Yeah.
And then have this win against one of the best teams in the league on paper. So good for the Jaguars.
Yeah, another divisional game. Seattle visits the LA Rams. This is a big one because, as you know, the Rams and Seattle were fighting for supremacy of this division. This is a tough one. Rams are now 8-2. Seahawks 7-3. 49ers keep winning at 7-4. Cardinals at 3-7. But the Rams pull it out 22-19. A lot of games ended with 22 points, by the way. But how should we feel about this? I'll tell you how I feel, and then give me your feedback. I feel like last year in the playoffs, Sam Darnold wasn't himself. He didn't play quite like he did the rest of the season. Of course, they're, tough game. This game, a lot riding on this game. This is the first game that he's played in as a Seahawk that actually really means something. Are we starting to see hints that Sam Darnold isn't clutch and maybe falls apart in large moments?
You could argue that because it's happened twice, but I don't think so. I think he just had a bad game. He had 4 picks, which is not like him the past 3 years, 2.5.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's good that the Seahawks is the first time that I think he's been part of a team that is behind him. It feels like,
sure,
because they're asking Ernest Jones in the locker room, one of the linebackers, how's it feel to have a quarterback turn it over 4 times, and he basically cut him off and then cursed at him and told him to stop, because they're backing their quarterback, which is good to see. I think it's just one of those games where it's divisional. Sean McVay is running one of the best defenses in the league right now. It's a divisional game. I say it every time. It's a coin flip. I think Darnold just have a rough day. I don't think it's something you should look into yet. They're still one of the best teams in football. Their defense is still one of the best teams in football. And JSN's still on this crazy tear of 100-yard games that he's having. So I wouldn't look into it.
I think it's funny that the Rams, as you know, when McVay took over, the previous coach had basically auctioned off all their picks, and they had a lot of old players, and they were handcuffed as to who they could draft. Then we see them shift after they win the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden they get their pick of picks, and they're starting to deal around, and we're seeing some of these players retire and move on. And then all of a sudden, the Rams are maybe better than they've ever been, especially with their 1-2 punch at wide receiver. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think Les Snead and Sean McVay are one of the best duos in the league, because they inherited a team with no picks, and they changed their motto to F them picks, and they just figured it out and won a Super Bowl without picks. And now they have a bunch of picks, and they've been drafting perfectly. So I think they just adapted well. They're one of the best front offices in the league. I think the Rams are just one of the best teams in the league, and there's no way around it. I don't think this is a fluke for them to beat Darnold that bad. I think Darnold just had a bad day.
Well, and here's the other thing. That defense of the Rams put it on them. There's no way around it, because sometimes it's easy to look at a team and say, oh, they lost that. But let's give credit where credit is due. The Rams defense, and mind you, they're an offensive-minded coach. That defense is playing lights out right now. That's impressive. Scary. Yeah, 100%. All right, the other two teams, as we mentioned, 41-22, San Francisco over Arizona. No surprise there, although Jacoby Brissett is technically still playing very well despite the loss to the much better 49ers.
He's the stat padding king.
He is the stat padding king.
He is the NFL record for attempts, I think. Was it 57?
Awful lot.
He's 40-something to 57. Yeah, a crazy amount. Michael Wilson, the receiver, I think he was 15 of 18. Don't quote me on it. 185. Big game if you have him in PPR. It's crazy. 35 points for the third receiver on the depth chart normally. We know Marvin Harrison's out with his appendix surgery. Should be back next week or the week following because it's not a long recovery. So
yeah. Crazy. And Harrison was just out on concussion protocol, so he should be back.
No, he just had his concussion, and then he had appendix rupture, so he did
Oh,
surgery.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm
So he
checking
should be
out
back
on that.
next week or the week following. I think he's still in concussion protocol, so that's confusing.
You would think that if you had your appendix taken out and missed a week, you're probably off of protocol, but you know, what do I know?
I don't know. Stroud's still in concussion protocol, so we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. Okay. A frustrating game if you were a Baltimore fan because even though they get the win 23-16 in Cleveland, for whatever reason, with the game close, coach decided to pull their rookie starting quarterback and they went with Shador Sanders. If the world has not seen it by now, I hate sound like a hater, Kib. I hate it. Shador Sanders is who we thought he was. If you watch him every time he was pressured, he went down. He could not read the field. In fact, his own team was saying that his cadence, they're not used to the way he hikes the ball, is what that means. This was troubling how bad. I don't understand what's going on with Stefanski. He used to be one of my favorite coaches. I thought he was doing a lot with a little, and now he pulls the rookie for their other rookie who is trash as a quarterback. He did have a concussion.
Got a concussion. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, it wasn't clear when you're watching Red Zone and it's bouncing around,
Yeah.
and you're starting to think Stefanski's losing his mind.
Shador, if you watched him in college at all, he benefited from having two NFL caliber wide receivers, Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn. One's on the Panthers, one's first round pick for the Jaguars, as you know. And they didn't run a tight end on their roster as on their every down plays in college. So their offense is already winning. Their O-line wasn't great, so he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college history because he checked it down immediately to his guys. If you watched him play, eyeball test, you knew he wasn't that good as a quarterback. And there's nothing against him. He was a fine college quarterback. I think the problem is, one, he's famous from his dad, and so there's a little nepotism there. He's hyped up by his dad. He's marketed well by his dad. I think the NFL looked into that and saw that it wasn't real. That's why he got drafted so late. The eyeball test doesn't fail for these things, guys.
No.
I mean, we talk about McCarthy with Zach Wilson in the past, Will Levis, these quarterbacks. Not saying Shador can't develop, but since he got drafted to now, he has not. So it's alarming. He's only in because Flacco was traded because they got a free pick for him, and Dylan Gabriel had to be out according to the team doctors. So it's not like they're choosing to start Shador. And he looked terrible, like you said. He waits way too long to throw the football. You got sacked. He had a terrible intentional grounding call where he just stood there, tried to scramble back 12 yards and threw it to nothing when there's already no receivers there. He's not good. People can't separate college careers from NFL careers, and that's the problem here. He's a fine college quarterback, not a good NFL quarterback, not a starter in this league.
I think we talk about this offline all the time, but for our listeners' sake, I think we all agree here in the Guys Without Helmet Studio world, that a good quarterback should first start with his feet. He should know where his feet are. He has to be able to make pre-snap reads and look at the defense and look at his coverage, know the difference, and know if he needs to make a change, which, again, J.J. McCarthy and Shador are in the same boat. I think they don't make obvious changes that you can see watching television pre-snap, and then post-snap you have to be able to do it. And on top of that, your footwork ultimately guides you. If you watch, we'll talk about this in a minute, but if you watch a Dak Prescott or Caleb Williams, that they go through their steps, they go through their progressions, they step up, balls out. It's very textbook. There's nothing that Shador and JJ have shown me, and I know you agree, we've talked about it offline, that says they have almost any of those quarterback attributes. They can throw the football, but neither of them have form, neither of them have great arms, in my opinion. And I think they're both rather pedestrian with any other skill set. So I'm baffled. In a world where I thought teams were starting to see quarterback play really elevate, because we're seeing really good quarterbacks. More teams have starting quarterbacks or franchise quarterbacks than ever. Look at Bo Nix, who's plug and play, Herbert, and so on and so forth. Even Goff moving and all that. But at the end of the day, we're still stuck with these two guys that for some reason people think are great, and I don't see it. I don't see it.
If J.J. McCarthy didn't win the championship in college the year prior to get drafted, I don't think he'd be this high.
No.
And then Shador, 100%. If he wasn't the son of a Hall of Famer, then he wouldn't even get drafted. Statistically, his completion percentage was the only stat in college that kind of carried him. He was just marketed well. That's why he was a fifth-round pick rather than being undrafted. So,
yeah, I totally agree.
I don't understand it.
So in this division currently, again, guys, don't be fooled. The Bengals have given up 334 points which is almost
Terrible.
100 more than every other team in their division. That's a lot. Right now, Steelers 6-4, Ravens 5-5, one game behind. They're coming. Bengals 3-7, Browns 2-8. So that's that division. Let's talk about two great quarterbacks, and we have Bo Nix now with the perfect pairing of a coach, and of course we have Patrick Mahomes with the perfect pairing of a coach. We knew this one would be close. We knew this one is what it is. It looks like Denver, Caleb, continues. They win 22-19 at home. It looks like anytime it's close and Bo Nix has a chance, they're going to go win the game.
Hey, Bo Nix, I've been saying it for 2 years. I know Josh agrees and Tim agrees and you agree, but I've been the most vocal about it on the show. He's that guy. He's that level of quarterback. Perfect scheme, like you said, fit with Sean Payton. That's Sean Payton's guy. When he was a commentator, he would talk about how he wish he could coach a guy like Bo Nix. So perfect. This one split us down the middle. You and Josh picked the Chiefs. Me and Tim picked the Broncos. And it went kind of how me and Tim were saying. They didn't have to stop the run because there is not really a run game there. Just stop Rashee Rice and force the ball to Travis Kelce, which Travis Kelce had a great game. It was a close game. Mahomes almost pulled it out with just throwing the one big pass to Tyquan Thornton and then pepper in Travis Kelce the entire game. So more of a defensive game. I know it's a higher scoring game for it to be called a defensive game, but the Broncos defense is legit. They're very scary. I think that's the main reason why they won.
Yeah, a crazy thing about these teams, again, with points against, we're talking Chiefs and Broncos are still in the high 100s. 181 points allowed for the Chiefs, 192 points allowed for the Broncos. In contrast, I mentioned to you the Bengals. The Bengals have already allowed 334. That's a lot. So I say that to say the Chiefs quietly have a great defense. The Broncos, we already know, has a lights out defense, and those guys are playing. And here's the tell of the real tell here: the Broncos and Chiefs. The points these teams have scored. The Chiefs have scored 254 points. Broncos 257. Only 3 more points, which is ironic. That's the number of points they needed to beat them on Sunday. So this division: Broncos 9-2. Chargers 7-4, as I mentioned. Chiefs 5-5. Raiders 2-8, as I said before. Okay, the Sunday night matchup was another one. That's not a divisional game, but super important in terms of how this is going to shape up potentially as we get closer to a playoff hunt. Detroit visits Philadelphia. They're 2.5-point favorites. They cover 16-9. Caleb, this is what I don't get. I've said enough about the Eagles. I'm not trying to be critical. This is a team that if you said they played the Lions and they beat them, 41-40, I'd believe you. But then if you said they beat them 6-3, I'd believe you, which is terrible because 16-9 from two perennial Super Bowl teams. I don't understand.
I think the problem is, I don't want to sound too critical. With the Eagles, they look like a 1940s team still. They're just kind of lulling their way through these wins, running up the middle nonstop.
Yeah.
The tush push still splits fans down the middle, whether they like it or not. The Lions lost this game. They 100% won this game if they just tried. They went for it on fourth down, I think 6 times, maybe 7, and they no jokes there. And then they didn't get any of them. I think Amon-Ra had 2 catches on 12 targets. Their tight end, Brock Wright, filling in for Laporta, had 2 catches on 7 targets. So a lot of targets up in the air, a lot of just missed opportunities. The Eagles kind of got this game handed to them. They really didn't do anything with it. It was a painful one to watch, which has been more often than not for Eagles games this year, which is weird. They're still winning. And they did kind of what I hoped they would do. What I thought they'd do is just stop the run and focus on pressuring Jared Goff and making him throw fast and inaccurate. And that's what happened, forcing him to go for it so many times on fourth down, which as a coach, Dan Campbell, great coach, gambler, at a certain point, if you're 0-5 fourth down, why are you going for it again? Like, there's a certain point you just punt it away and then cross your fingers. But yeah, a rough game to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I love, love him as a coach. Hate that he is a Maverick and he continually doesn't put points on the board. All right, final game to talk about. Pleasant surprise for Cowboys fans, and I think most people that are knowledgeable non-meatball fans acknowledge that Dallas's defensive line now looks solid. They brought in 3 players essentially that they didn't have, and they have a great young player. So this would be the first game, Jerry said, where they get 6 of their people back and the new players, blah, blah, blah. No surprise. They didn't allow but 1 touchdown. First time they can say that this season. All the rest were field goals. They beat Las Vegas 33-16. I still don't know, Caleb. Do you know why our boys were benched that first series? That was a little weird to see 3 and 88, your best two players on offense, sitting. They didn't seem to be like showing anything, and they had their poker face on. But something happened. The sideline reporter said it was a coach's decision. A little weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was disciplinary or if it was. I mean, it has to be at that point.
Yeah.
But when you're playing the Raiders, you're able to do that. We talked about it last week. This game probably wouldn't be close just because the Raiders O-line is so tore up. Genty hasn't been doing great because of that. Geno Smith's playing hurt. He has a quad injury. They traded Jacoby Myers, their best receiver outside of Brock Bowers, away. Their defense is old and banged up. It's just not a good look for the Raiders right now. They thought that Geno would come in and be this bridge quarterback with Pete Carroll, get in all these vets on defense, and you can plug and play, be a contender, which clearly isn't the case. They're not a good team. We talked about on the show how they'd be a problem for teams, and they're not a problem. I would say that. They've only been a problem for divisional games like the Broncos, where it was close. Dak looked great, though, so that's good. We can talk about Dak.
Yeah, no, I mean, all in all, it was, it is kind of, again, I think it's what you expect it to be. I mean, Dallas started off slow in the first quarter, then 21 points in the second quarter, 7 in the third. Yeah. Didn't really need any more. They did the classy thing. And, where they could have, ran it. Because CD, I said this to Josh too, off mic. There's some pros and cons to CD. One pro is he doesn't mind that his teammates get theirs. He seems to celebrate his teammates well. He loves having Pickens there. He's been very vocal that he wants to keep him there. Love that. Con, he can drop a ball. He'll drop a ball, as shown last night. Yeah, the ball's a little short. 100% catchable ball. He knew it. It didn't matter. It wasn't one of those, but there's pros and cons to them. All in all, the Dallas offense isn't the problem. As I said to Josh, I said, looks like we might score 40, and he's like, as you do. But the difference is we didn't allow 40,
Yeah,
so,
it's a big part. I have two stats or facts that I'll read that Josh sent me for this since he's not here. The first one, they're both Cowboys stats. The first one, Dak Prescott now has 41 career games with 3 or more passing touchdowns, breaking Tony Romo's franchise record for the most in Cowboys history.
Unbelievable.
So Dak, statistically, the best passer Dallas has ever had. Troy Aikman can think about that while he sleeps because he's very critical of Dallas Cowboys, if you aren't aware.
Very.
Second, only 2 players in the entire NFL, the history of the NFL, have had 50-plus receptions and averaged 15 or more yards for those 50 catches in each of their first 4 years. George Pickens and Randy Moss.
Crazy. Yeah,
so I'm not saying he's Randy Moss, but he's playing like Randy Moss.
Well, again, funny that you pair him with a good quarterback, and all of a sudden he's capable of 130 yards in one half. I mean, he is the wide receiver 1 right now in yards. Am I right?
I have to check that because let me look.
Yeah. Where is Josh when you need him? These things he spits off.
He's the king of all this.
While you're doing that, let me say this to our listeners. The Eagles are currently 8-2 in the division. Cowboys still below 500 at 4-5. Commanders at 3-8. Giants 2-9. Here's another interesting fact while you're pulling this up. If you look in our division, it doesn't look too bad. Points allowed. Giants have allowed 300 points. Commanders 296. Dallas 293. But that is changing. That is changing.
Yeah, so obviously we didn't think about it long enough, but JSN's leading the league, 1146. He's already over 1,000. George Pickens as second fiddle. I know Lamb was out for a month. 908. Jamar Chase put up a stinker this last week. Still has 861. Puka, who missed 2 weeks, I think, with a ankle issue.
Right.
850. And Drake London, who's now going to miss a couple weeks with this knee issue, 810. So JSN and Pickens can really separate here. They both already had their bye week. Jamar Chase is on his bye now. Everyone behind him has been hurt. So it's really a Pickens and Njigba fight. And Njigba being 200 yards over him. So it looks like he's going to be our yards leader if he can keep this pace up and hopefully stay healthy. But Pickens, number 2, is pretty wild.
And we should probably mention, just like we did starting off Monday Night Football, this year, another spitter, this time from Jamar Chase. And that's why he's out. You alluded to him being out.
Yes. He's out now. They're on they're not on their bye week. Excuse me. Yeah, he's out, suspended. I have him in fantasy, so it says out. So that's why I feel that very deep down in my soul because I traded for him and I can't have him. He had his bye week when I traded for him, got a 3-point game, and now he's suspended. So it feels like a bye week, a month-long bye week.
I love
But
Tomlin's
spitting on a guy. No, Mike
unacceptable.
Tomlin, are you gonna say that?
Well, what Mike said basically was they asked him about spitting, and he basically said, "I don't have anything to say about that." Basically, you do what comes natural, implying you deserve to be
Like, what would
punched in
you
the
do?
mouth.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've never been spit on, and never had a game where I kind of like what Ramsey said because he was very articulate in his press conference. He said basically, "I'm all about talking trash," and you know when you play football, everything's fair game. I know you didn't play yourself, but people don't even know you will just say stuff to try to get you going. That's part of it. So I love Ramsey's response. Interestingly, though, Chase's response was, "I never opened my mouth." What does that mean? Like, why include that verbiage? You can spit through your teeth. I mean, it's clear he spit. The footage is there. I again, we don't like talking about character on this podcast. I don't want to do that. I want to talk about what happens on the field. But this happened on the field, and I think it's lowbrow. We'll admit that Carter was baited into it by Dak Prescott, which is part of it too. He definitely baited him. There's no doubt about it. I mean, those two are going at it, but you have to be the bigger man. And I think spitting transcends everything. Like that is a basic human thing that I don't think anyone should ever be spit on. And I don't know how I would respond. I like to think I'm a very put together person, but I have my limits and I've never been spit on. And I don't think football is a place to do it. So
I'm sure when you're wearing pads, you feel a little more confident too. So
you definitely do. But you also have, there's, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. All right. Enough said. I don't want to beat these guys up. All the divisions are covered. Let's see. We talked about all the divisions. It's important because we're getting into cruise control now. And I want to make sure we did not talk about this division. Let me go ahead and just spit it out while we're talking about it. The AFC South, because much of them were on bye. Well, they weren't on bye. The Colts were on bye. Colts right now 8-2. Jaguars at 6-4. Texans at 5-5. Titans at 1-9. We already knew the Titans season was all but lost as they look for a head coach. But hey, the rest of this could be up for grabs. All right, moving into Week 12. I think there's some matchups in here. There's some really good matchups this week. Not the first game. Thursday night, they should flex this out. Buffalo's only 3.5. You like this one?
I love this one.
Buffalo 3.5 over Houston.
Yeah, you had one of the best defenses in the league against one of the best quarterbacks in the league. They have no receivers, so it's going to have to be Josh Allen running around. I feel like he's going to have to make magic happen, and it's hard when they play a team like Atlanta, the Bills, a few weeks ago, and they get beat in prime time because the formula is keep Josh Allen in a bubble, don't let him get out. Force them to throw down the field like we've seen in previous years. The Chiefs used to do that to him, and you can just run the clock out. So I think the Texans will try that with the backup quarterback, try to play keep away, give Nick Chubb and Woody Marks as many carries as they can handle. Josh Allen's going to score, so you just got to keep the ball away from him. I think it's going to be close. I really do.
Okay. Are you going to pick Houston?
No.
Good. All right. Pittsburgh's visiting Chicago. Chicago favorite 3.5. Where are you going?
This one's really interesting.
It is.
I think I'm going to go Bears.
Okay.
Because Steelers, we've seen at the beginning of the year, they got ran on a lot. I know the Jets put up like 200 rushing yards against them the first few weeks of the year. I talked about it in the past, but they fixed that problem. But now their secondary is still very porous. The Bears receivers have been kind of quiet the last few weeks, other than the Loveland breakout where he won the game in the last catch. DJ Moore's due. Romadunze is definitely due. He's dropped touchdowns the last few weeks. So I think they figured it out this week. And the Steelers in Chicago is the perfect way to bounce back at 1 o'clock. Not in prime time. That's where Caleb Williams plays his best football. So I think it's going to be a good game. It kind of depends on who starts for the Steelers. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to start. But if Tim were here, he'd pick the Steelers because Aaron Rodgers is still the owner of the Bears. Well, he signed that over to Jordan Love. So
he did.
He's the previous owner of the Bears. So
that's right.
They'd probably go Steelers, but I'm going to go Bears.
I'm going Chicago for everything you said. Home team matters. Yep, I agree. All right, this one's a no-brainer. I don't think we're going to disagree. Actually, we're not going to disagree on these two, so let me spit them out. New England is favored on the road by 7.5 against Cincinnati. I got New England all day. They're going to continue to roll that machine. Man, I'm telling you right now, looking at their schedule, they're 9-2. It's going to be hard for them not to win 14 games this year, which is absurd.
Yep.
Another one that I think is a no-brainer. They're angry. They're at home. Detroit's 11.5-point favorites against the Giants. All right, here's one that we could split on. If Tim were here, I think he would agree. Green Bay at home, 6.5-point favorites over Minnesota. I'm going Green Bay.
Yeah, I think Green Bay is pretty obvious, I think. The defense against J.J. McCarthy is kind of laughable, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I know the Packers' offense is in shambles right this moment. Hopefully they can figure that out during this week. It's a divisional game, so it's going to be close. But the Packers have been playing pretty awful the last 2 weeks. I think everyone would agree with that. And I don't think they continue that. I said this last week that they wouldn't continue it going into next week, this past week. But I don't think they'll do that again. The Vikings defense is very good, so that could be a problem. But I think that the difference between the Vikings offense and the Packers defense is way different. I think they're on different levels of everything. So I think that the Packers defense will win the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's I just don't see much of a future for McCarthy in terms of growing from week to week. I think it's a downward spiral. So, all right, here's a bounce back game, but it's an easy one for us to say. Seattle's on the road. They are favored at Tennessee, 12.5 points. No brainer. Seattle, they're going to bounce back. Tennessee's 1-9.
Yeah.
This probably won't be much of a contest. Okay, let's talk about one that should be a contest. I'm not sure how you're going with this one. Indianapolis visiting Kansas City. Kansas City favored by 3.5 at home. I'll start since you started so many. I'm going KC. They're angry. They need a win. We jokingly talk about the gods of football. There's no such thing. It just seems to be things work out the way they work out. And as I look down this list and I see that the Chiefs are at 500, as good as the Colts are, let me put it this way. If the Chiefs are who we think they are, they'll get the win somehow because they're at home. But if the Colts are truly who they are becoming, then we're going to see that this week, and they'll get the win. But I'm going with the Chiefs, the gods of football.
I'm going to go Colts. I think that they're coming out the bye. They're all fresh. Jonathan Taylor, the best running back in football. The Chiefs cannot contain that, I don't think. They got Sauce Gardner. Their DBs are healthy. We just saw last week the Chiefs lose to the Broncos. They took Rashee Rice out of the game in the second half completely. Forced Travis Kelce to get the ball, which I think is a matchup that they like. He's not the young Travis Kelce, so it's a matchup they like. They're not so worried about the run still because it's Kareem Hunt. The Colts are just a better team all around, I think. The Chiefs are still kind of the one-man show. Mahomes throwing it to kind of anybody they could pick up. I don't know why they didn't get a running back in this trade window like we talked about in the past, but whatever. I think the Colts are just a better team, and I think that they can win. The Chiefs already lost at home this year. They're 4-1 at home, so I think they can lose another one.
If I told you that the Broncos, Colts, and Patriots would be fighting for the number one seed, you would have thought I was crazy before the season started, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But that is indeed what we are seeing. Okay, keep on moving here. Another no-brainer. Baltimore's 14.5-point favorites against the Jets. Now they've benched Justin Fields. Are you for or against benching Justin Fields at this point?
I'm against it. You brought him in to be kind of like the new home for him, the first place that actually wanted him, as they said. They traded for him or signed him from the Steelers. Sorry. They said he's the guy. They've the owner continually has trashed him and then started him, then trashed him and started him. And now they benched him again officially. The Ravens are a beatable team. We watched last week the Browns. I know it's divisional. One possession game, basically the whole game. Lamar had 2 picks, looked pretty bad. I don't think Tyrod Taylor is going to get it done. I really don't. I think Justin Fields has a way better chance of beating this defense that the Ravens have. Tyrod, I think, we know what we're getting with Tyrod. At least Justin Fields has rushing upside, has some unpredictability to him. Obviously, I think I'm going to pick the Ravens, but I think that the Jets have a shot. They're a solid team, but they're clearly rebuilding and clearly not using their best quarterback, in my opinion. So, Ravens.
I'm going Ravens all day. Okay, here's a toss a coin, in my opinion. Vegas is at home, 3.5 over Cleveland. Flip a coin. Are we getting Shador? Do we know?
Yes, he's starting.
Oh, boy.
Dylan Gabriel's in concussion protocol.
Raiders.
The Browns' defense is so good. I think this game could be a 9-3 game. I think it'll be that low scoring. I think Browns win. I think the Browns win. Myles Garrett, we just watched him have a billion sacks this past week. The Raiders' O-line is horrendous. Geno Smith, horrendous. So I think Myles Garrett has his way again. in this game, and then puts himself on top of the Defensive Player of the Year award finalist here. And I think they beat the Raiders. I don't think it's a pretty game. I think if you're not a Raiders fan, you're not watching it. If you're a Raiders fan, you probably won't watch it either because it's going to be that bad. Yeah. Shedeur Sanders, we already talked about him in the last segment, so I wouldn't watch this. If it wasn't on Red Zone, I wouldn't even see this game.
You're not wrong. All right, Jacksonville at Arizona. Jacksonville on the road, favored 2.5. I think we agree Jacksonville's the better team here. All right, here's one we need to sit on. I'll go first. Philadelphia, who has already beaten the Dallas Cowboys this year, are favored by 4.5 at home. Dallas has a 2-1 record at home. Philadelphia's 4-1 at home. Of course, Philly's not. They're also 4-1 away. I'm going with Dallas. Something hit me today after looking at the stats from last night's game. We just got Williams in to anchor our defensive line from the Jets. He had 1 sack in 8 games with the Jets. You know how many sacks he had last night in the first half?
Well, he had 1.5 in the game. And then he had 5 quarterback hits in that game. 5.
Thank you. So here's what I'm saying. Like, we have something new in Dallas in terms of bringing in players that haven't played together. It immediately made our first trade with Green Bay look better because we brought in a run stopper. He looked better because he had help. I think I'm not saying Dallas' defense is better. The Eagles' defense is one of the best in the league. But I think that it's enough of a change that they're going to have to be watching 1 week's worth of tape to figure out who we are. And Eberflus is good enough that he can make a difference. We'll see. I'm going to go with the homer.
What Dallas is doing is their linebacker room is finally deep. There's like 6 starters that are all legit starters in the league. We watched every one of them play 1 quarter this past game. They all played 25 to 30% snaps.
Yep.
That's Logan Wilson. That's Kenneth Murray, Overshown, came back his first game. I don't only have 1 tackle.
Yeah.
And then LaFau played a quarter of the game. We know Sanborn's out and Damone Clark's out. So this is the deepest Dallas linebacker room's been in my lifetime, at least.
Sure.
And I'm excited about it. We're finally not relying on one guy. And if that guy misses the tackle, it's a touchdown. We have a room full of guys that are either all vets or seasoned players on this team that we drafted. So I'm excited for it. I'll just go ahead and pick Cowboys. I think that the Eagles, I just don't know I don't know what to think. I picked them last week because Jared Goff is exposable in that way under pressure. We've seen it before, so that's why I picked them. But Dallas, their 2-headed monster at wide receiver is just way better than I think any other duo in the league. I think the Eagles will have a problem with that. Obviously, the Eagles will score their points. I think this defense is still figuring it out. I think it has a chance of being high scoring like the first week of the year. So I'm going to pick Dallas, but it's at home for the Cowboys, so I think Dallas has the edge.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, here's another toss a coin. It looks like now the Kirk Cousins-led Atlanta Falcons go into New Orleans, and 1.5 point favorites on the road. I don't care.
Dude,
let me just put it that way. I don't care.
Give me Captain Kirk, baby.
Okay. I mean, I don't even know anymore. You know?
So Michael Penix, Drake London go down. The Falcons front seven's still there. That matters. They're the team. That a few weeks ago we were saying we're a contender. I did, so they're a contender because their defense is so good. The Saints are not good. They have Shuck, who's probably not going to be starting next year. Their team's just not good. Kamara's been one of the worst running backs from last year to this year. The drop-off is very alarming. Kirk Cousins is not some slouch. Like, he was a top 10 quarterback in the league 2 years ago. His first 6 weeks on the Falcons, he was an MVP candidate, and they benched him. I don't think he's just a bum. Obviously, Drake London not playing is not good, but Bijan's still in. Kyle Pitts is still in. Darnell Mooney's still breathing. Their offensive line is okay, and their defense is great. And I think the Saints, they stink.
They stink.
I don't think the Saints can win, so I would pick Falcons.
Yeah, I went Atlanta, but I don't care. I think the Rams at home, I don't care. Neither of those teams are going to be around at the end. I don't know who the Falcons are. I don't mind. I don't hate either team. I actually kind of like both teams. Like you said, New Orleans is rebuilding. Atlanta, I just don't know who they are. So, all right, Rams at home, 6.5 point favorites over Tampa Bay. As much as I love Baker Mayfield, and I do, and I think Tampa Bay's got a good squad, trust me, I have 4 of their starters on IR on my fantasy team right now. They're killing me. They're killing me, bro. They can't win hobbled without their full, Monty. And even when they have everybody, I'm not sure they can win. Rams 6.5 point favorites. I'm going with the Rams.
Yeah, I think Rams, because they're one of the best defenses in the league. We just watched them embarrass Sam Darnold. Baker Mayfield's that kind of quarterback. He's great, but he's exposable in that way. He's a gunslinger. He likes taking shots. Their team's still banged up. They might not have Bucky Irving back still. I think Ibuka gets his. So if you have in fantasy, I would still fire him up, obviously, because we just saw James Say have 100 yards against this defense. I think it could potentially be a shootout.
Yeah.
But the Rams team, their defense is just too good. Their offense, Matt Stafford's on pace for 60 touchdowns or something crazy this year. He's playing out of his mind. Puka Nakua's healthy. I mean, it's hard to pick against the Rams. But as we know, the Rams love Baker Mayfield. They brought him in that one emergency game where he flew in that week and then started for him in prime time and won for him. It's like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So they like each other. It should be fun to watch. Rams all the way.
Yep, and that is your Sunday night football game. Here's the last game again. I'm not sure why they are submitting us to this. Maybe it's going to be good. We'll see. San Francisco's 6.5-point favorites over the Carolina Panthers at home. I don't know. Carolina's been playing respectable football lately. You like the young coach in Carolina. Who do you got for this one?
Man, my brain says 49ers. But my heart says Panthers because they're coming off these wins where they're coming back or they're just shutting out teams. They shut out the Falcons 30-0. This past week was heroics. Bryce Young having the best quarterback game that a Panther has ever had in the past 26 years, 27, however long they've been around. So he's a good quarterback. I mean, I know it's hard to say, but he gets it done. The 49ers they're banged up everywhere. I think this is more of a primetime game because of the Christian McCaffrey revenge game. I think that's the only thing you can market with this.
Sure.
It's probably not going to be great to watch unless you root for these teams. And the Panthers are a small market team, so it's in California, so that's hard for the Panthers. But I think Panthers, they're coached up. They're playing really good football. They're hot. The 49ers are also hot. Brock Purdy came back and lit up everything, and they look great. So I think this should be a good game. I know I just said it probably wouldn't be good, but I thinking about it more, I think it will be a great game. So I think the Panthers can win. More of a hunch than actual brainwaves, but
so we're going 49ers.
Panthers.
Oh, you're going Panthers. Okay.
I'm going Panthers.
The Panthers are one of the few teams that are above 500 that have given up more points than they've scored. And they've given up 42 more points than they've scored, which is a lot. It's a couple ball games. But,
Yep.
you know, hey. And to be honest, Dallas is below 500, but they've scored more than they've given up. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's wild.
They also
Super
tied,
wild.
so that doesn't help.
No, but, again, you take a couple of those 40-point games away, and all of a sudden Dallas has got a respectable, for and against line. So it is what it is. They're definitely, I think, that the matchups to look at this week, if you care. Obviously, Rams-Tampa has big implications for later. Dallas and Philly does not, but within our division, I think, because I don't see Dallas being a serious contender. Kansas City, Indianapolis, Detroit, Minnesota, even Pittsburgh, Chicago. Some of these games really are important for what it's going to look like down the road. Anything the Chiefs are doing right now. So some pretty good matchups. Week 12 is going to be good. Anything stand out before we close? Anything on the roster there that you're looking at that you're particularly interested in?
There's some receivers that I really like. And they might be because I'm starting them this week, but it's more because they have great matchups. Yeah. A.J. Brown versus Dallas. We just watched Trey Tucker have, I think, 80 yards and a touchdown against them. A.J. Brown is much better than Trey Tucker, obviously.
You think?
And we just saw him in prime time get the squeaky wheel treatment where he got 11 targets against the Lions. He get high volume again against Dallas' secondary, which is fairly exposable still. Trayvon's still out. So look for A.J. Brown to have a big game. And then next is DJ Moore. He's been kind of quiet outside of a big boom week where he threw a touchdown, had 20 points. He's playing Pittsburgh. They're allowing an absurd amount of points and yards to wide receivers. DJ Moore will get back on track, in my opinion. And then lastly, Brian Thomas, if he plays, I think he'll have a bounce-back game. He's been hurt with that ankle injury. Playing Arizona, we just watched the 49ers put up 40 points against them. I think that Brian Thomas gets back on track there.
Yeah, everything you just said. I guess a lot of people would also think that the Cowboy and Eagle duo of receivers, but we don't get to see games where both of the Eagles receivers go off at the same time. So I'm not real sure I'm excited about that. I'm looking to actually, as much as it sounds crazy, I really like Seattle. I like what they're doing. I like their coach. I like Darnold. Obviously, they have a good receiving core as well. You know, they have the best receiver in the league right now. I'm anxious to see them bounce back, and Tennessee's a good swing game for them to be able to swing the pendulum back to the win side. Super excited to see what Shane Steichen's able to do against Andy Reid, because to be the best, you got to beat the best, and if it comes down to coaching, Andy is definitely still one of the best. So, yeah, let me say this for our fantasy people. I always say it, but if you have players that are on Denver, Miami, LA Chargers, or Washington, I repeat, the Broncos, the Dolphins, the Chargers, and the Commanders, set them, which is probably half my lineup right now, which is terrifying because I just won in all my leagues for the first time in a couple weeks. It's been dude, is our whole league 500? Our whole money league feels like it's 500.
Yeah, there's 3 people that are over and 2 people that are under. Everyone else is 500.
How awesome is that kind of parity in a fantasy football league?
Crazy. All I know is I put up 50 points last week, which is gut wrenching. So
yeah,
terrible.
I don't know. Well, it's hard to beat Josh when he has all the best. Like he has, Taylor when he's slaying it. And yeah, it's hard.
George
to beat.
Kittle. Yeah.
Hard to beat. All right. Well, that is our week 12 preview. Like I said, there's lots of matchups. Also, if you're a red zone guy, there's lots of matchups you probably wouldn't see without red zone, as you said. So it's going to be good. We will have a full group next week as we return to talk about week 13. But in the meantime, make sure you guys tune in. Give us a like, a subscribe. If you like the channel, if you like the content, we really do appreciate it. And we'll see you next week on Guys Without Helmets.